Hey everybody. Hey everybody, welcome to MSP Initiative's uh, call. Sorry, I am filling in for George. We all know there's nobody that can fill George's shoes, but I am nevertheless going to try. Just real quick before we get to Joe and his awesome story, we're just going to cover a little housekeeping details on some MSP initiatives. We have the channel sports tour where, everybody who knows George knows why he's doing this. But it's a great way to get community together, tailgate a bit, and then go watch some excellent football games across the country. Also, there are the block parties that are happening. If you haven't been to a block party, you're missing out. So make sure you go and check out the party at DattoCon, and then a few more block parties that are coming up. You can check this all out on mspinitiative.com. And that will get you all the information you need to know to register for these cool events that are coming up. As you can tell, my voice is just a little worn out. I happen to be at an event right now, and Joe and I are going to talk a bit about community as well. So, we all know how community is so important to me. If you don't know who I am, I'm Ken Patterson. I'm Director of Community at Total. I'm very, very heavily involved with MSP Initiative, and just love this community to death. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Joe and let Joe tell you a little bit about him and what he's doing and a little bit about Lenovo.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, and really appreciate the time. And I got to look up that MSP Initiative website. Never heard of it before, and it sounds like some good stuff going on. I'll have to check it out. All jokes aside, I'm happy to be here, and yes, community is very important to me, and I love getting to participate in the community wherever whenever I get an option to do so. My name is Joe Monseur. I've been with Lenovo for just over 4 years now. Um, I do all of the MSP industry events. So because you meet so many people at these events, you kind of have to have a stage name or something that people, that sticks when you talk to people. So I always jokingly say that I'm Lenovo Joe. That's easy to remember. I don't officially have the joe@lenovo.com email address yet, but I'm fighting for it every day. Um, but yeah, I've been in the MSP industry probably as long as I've been in IT in one way or another. And I thought I'd start with a joke, actually, because I when I was 19 and I was still thinking about what I wanted to do with my career. I knew I wanted to do IT, but everyone in my family who had gone into IT, my uncles, my relatives, they were all very shy people. They're not people friendly, right? And I used to think like, geez, if I'm going to go into IT, am I going to be in computer like programming? Am I just going to be like behind a desk all day and not talking to anyone and in the dark?
Right.
Um, and so I had a very different impression of what IT was going to look like when I was 19 than what I do now. But actually, the very first company that I interviewed for when I was, still going through college, still trying to get that first job, was an MSP local to where I lived at the time. And I went through all the interviews. I was really excited about it. I was getting my CompTIA A+ certification. I was doing everything to prepare for it. And of course, I was at my current job where I was lifeguarding, swim instructing, and I was in the office, in between shifts, and this guy walks in and is like, "Hey, what are you studying for?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm applying at this company. I really want to get in." And I didn't know at the time, but he was actually listening very intently. And so he listened to what company I was interviewing for, what I was studying, and took that information and actually applied at the company. Um, so I did not get that job, and it actually did go to that other person. And that was the first lesson I learned, which is keep your mouth shut when someone's talking to you about your what you're interviewing for and what you're, but I thought that I would have a bad taste in my mouth with MSPs when I first started. I thought, oh, this was my experience, and it didn't work out for me. And maybe it's karma. I don't know what it is, but in every role basically that I've been in since I, finished college, got into the industry, has been working with MSPs in some way. So I don't know. Is that karma? Is that a joke? I don't know if there's a punchline to that.
Well, I think one thing is you bring up a good point. there's always one door closes and another one opens, right? And
Yeah.
you learn over time to stop looking at the bad things that happen or something that, doesn't hit right. You end up bouncing out of a company or you don't get a job at a company. And somehow, some way, I believe that the more you grow your community.
I lost you. I lost you, Ken.
You lost me?
You just came back.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Hotel internet, gotta love it.
Yeah.
Um, so what I'm saying is community to me is what makes those doors open, I think, faster, and there's more doors opening. As you build that up and as you get to know people, you find more ways to bounce back from those, the negative experience of either leaving a job or not getting a job. So I think that helps too. So karma, I don't know if I necessarily believe in karma. I think we make our own way with the connections we create and being genuine. And I think that helps. I think that
Yeah.
helps a lot. So from that standpoint, from that starting point, which by the way, it was a good story. It wasn't a joke. It was just a good story. From that, if you could go back to that time, what would Joe now, who's been in the business for a while and been on both sides of the fence in all these iterations, what would you go back and say to young Joe when he was first starting out and doing all this, other than don't tell people about where you're going?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I would have convinced him of anything, because I was so bullheaded, and I thought I knew what I wanted to do, and even if it was me talking to myself, I probably wouldn't listen to them. I would have no idea. But I think, going to the community point, I think one of the most valuable things that I've learned from having a community and interacting with so many different people is not so much like bouncing from one job to another, but more so finding out who I am and what I want to do in the industry, and learning from other people, like what are the things that they've done, what have they really enjoyed in their careers. Where would they have invested more time if they had the opportunity to do so? And I've had some fantastic mentors along the way. And where I thought I would go in the IT industry was a lot different than where I am now. And that's primarily because of community, through working with various leaders who helped guide me, and sometimes not so great leaders, and seeing what was on the other side, maybe, to get a better experience. So that's where really community has had a huge impact for me in my career. And
Yeah.
yeah, I get to work with MSPs every day now. I don't even think I said what I do at Lenovo. I used to be the community manager for our MSP group. In the last 3 or 4 years or so, we've built a community of over, I think, 1,500 MSPs now. And it's grown so much that I've gotten to the point where we actually need people talking to those MSPs every day. And so I'm in a new seat where I get to interact with those partners in our community. So that's what I do, and that's how important community is to me.
That's awesome. And I really love that. And it's especially hard in our space where things are evolving and it's all about,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, what's the next sexy word? We cybersecurity was really cool for about 2 minutes and now it's AI, right? And what's the next thing?
yeah,
And I think when you're building community, you have the opportunity to better talk about those types of things. So we'll quickly dive into some Lenovo stuff and then bounce back around. We want to keep the conversation open. Um, from your standpoint, what is Lenovo doing about the fact that MSPs now are just like hardware? That's not really sexy. Who buys hardware anymore? Everything's in the cloud. Well, what do they think the cloud runs on?
yeah.
And what do they think AI runs on? But again, it's still that perception of what are you guys doing to kind of separate yourselves? And also, how are you dealing with those types of questions and how it all works?
Yeah, well, look, I've been fighting that fight for the last 4 years with all of the
Yeah.
events that I go to. We weren't going to MSP events before I started, and I was tasked to build an MSP community. And we didn't have an MSP program when I started, so all of those resources, they weren't there. And I had to create that, right? I had to create that narrative. And what I've learned from 4 years of going to events and having that question asked at every single one of them is, it, no one does care about hardware, and that's okay, right? It's not the sexy word, but people don't care about hardware, but they do care about relationships, right? And hardware is still a fundamental component to any MSP solutions. And a lot of the decisions that MSPs make with any vendor that they select, whether it's a hardware vendor or a software vendor, is what is that relationship that I have with that vendor? What am I getting out of that experience beyond the solution itself? Who are the resources? How do they help me? How do they guide me to grow my business? How can they make me more efficient? All of those things, that's what matters to our partners. And I think when people say, is hardware, like, how is it relevant to the audience? It's not very relevant. Relationships are.
That's a great answer, Joe. I really love that. I think that well, I know that you're 100% accurate. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what the solution or product or widget or whatever. It's all about the relationships. It's about how you make people feel about those things and how you're taking care of them and what's going on and if they can call you and and things actually get worked out. It's not about being perfect. We know that one, right? But it's about being there when they need you. That's what real community is, right? So I love the fact that the way you said that made perfect sense in lining up with that. So something that is happening from from a hardware perspective, just in general. Love to hear your take on how you guys are dealing with supply chain resilience. With all the global disruptions, what strategies are Lenovo implementing to ensure resilience and stability of the supply chain?
Yeah, so we're always ranked very high, Lenovo, as an organization for our global supply chain capabilities. As an organization, we have manufacturing facilities all around the globe, and we have manufacturing facilities in the North America market. And yeah, with the current administration and what's going on with the news every day, I feel like that's one of the things that I get asked the most by partners is,
Right.
what is pricing going to look like tomorrow? What is inventory going to look like tomorrow? And as an organization, because of our strength in our supply chain, I do believe that we're one of those OEMs that is going to bounce back the fastest, right? As we look at current market dynamics and shifting our operations to meet the current needs of our partners and our customers. So as an organization, I'm confident that, you know, as we hear more from the administration, that we're going to have answers so that our partners can continue to deliver the solutions that they expect from us. Maybe that was the diplomatic response, but I do truly believe that that's the case. And I
Yeah.
work with partners every day on that question.
Yeah, I kind of figured, and that's something. And funny, we were talking about things that are not sexy, but you need them, right? Just because everybody's into the what's the new hot word. But like I thought about it, I'm like backup. No one talks about backup anymore, but you need that. You need that every day. So it's the same thing. And you're even deeper. You're at the core because every single one of those things runs on hardware.
Yeah, well, hardware isn't sexy or relevant, but when toilet paper is short because of COVID, then people care about hardware all of a sudden, right? So, um,
That was a good analogy.
yeah, maybe not the same type of hardware, but
Right.
nonetheless, I think the point, you know, is met.
So this one's gonna come from a weird place, but I told my son I was interviewing Lenovo just in a weird conversation. So
Mhm.
he asked me this, he said, "Oh, Dad, do they do anything with gaming?" And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna ask Joe that question just because we're gonna be asking whatever." So his question was, what are Lenovo's key strategies to remain competitive and innovative in the rapidly growing gaming PC and accessory market? And this was
Yeah.
his whole question, so I gotta give him credit.
That's a fantastic question, and I'm really happy to say we have an entire gaming line, so that's our Legion category. It's meant to be a consumer category for our
Mhm.
industry, but I find that in our MSP program, one of the things that you can do in the program is you can, as you transact with us, you get these dollars, you can redeem these dollars towards, purchases that you're going to make, and it could be NFR gear. And it's so funny, most of the NFR requests I get are for Legion equipment because, these technicians and like these
Yep.
really like geeks, right? As how else do I describe it? these nerdy guys who are in the industry and are like, hey, I could get, you know, a workstation or I could get a gaming PC. Both are going to meet my needs equally because the processing power is the same. So I get tons of NFR requests for our Legion category products. We have an esports division, and as a company, that's a space that, you know, we invest in heavily from the consumer side. I actually have a lot of our Legion products. So a lot of people know what the Steam Deck is, right? That handheld PC. We have our own version of that, right? That's our Legion Go, which makes sense.
Nice.
Go being, yeah. And yeah, it's like holding a switch, right? You've got these joysticks you can take off, but it's simultaneously a native Windows 11 experience. So it's wild. We have tons of cool gaming products. If they're at all interested, I'd be happy to pass along my login so you can check out the deals on that stuff.
I figured it would directly relate to all the nerds in the space that love that stuff, right? Where
Yeah.
everywhere I go, we're talking about gaming, we're talking about all the types of things that they're doing, and my son directly relates. So it was funny that he said it to me. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna add that in there and ask Joe.
Yeah, these are always fun questions I get when people are like, "Oh yeah, I know Lenovo for the trackpad, right? Yeah, okay, yeah, you've got the ThinkPads." But you know, it's some of them are surprised. Oh yeah, we have a server division, right? Yeah, we IBM, right? A lot of people don't know that
Right.
we have Motorola, right? We got phones. We do a ton with AR, VR. There's a lot of categories that people don't know about. And when they see it, they're like, oh, this is so cool. It's so innovative. Why have I never seen this before? It's like the quiet innovator. Um, yeah,
I remember back in the day when I'll admit it, I thought Lenovo's were super solid, but there was that one, I don't know if it was a year or a couple of years when you got this crazy good laptop, but it was filled with bloatware.
yeah.
And then, but I will say, unlike most companies, Lenovo heard the feedback and changed that very quickly. And then you also had the time where the servers were the big things, and then you guys kind of made that separation between
Yeah.
the server, actually between what was it before Lenovo? What was the title of Lenovo, the other company? Was it
We
God, I
called
can't
it,
remember.
I think the acronym you're referring to, we had like the DCG division. It was like our data center group. But we have our Lenovo 360 program now, which is basically a reimagination of like bringing our entities back together. So we have our IDG group, which is our PC group. We have our ISG group, which is our infrastructure, you know, servers. And then we have our SSG group, which is our software and services group. So yeah, if that helps
I,
with the
yeah,
acronyms, there's
yeah.
a million.
I remember. I just remember going through the iterations back in the day, and when I think, but I gotta be when I think of Lenovo, I think of solid devices. That's the one thing I can say. I've never had a problem with a Lenovo like I did with some of the others that I won't mention. But
Yeah. Well, I
um,
get those at events too. People would walk up to the booth, and the first thing they'd say to me before they even say hi, they'll be like, "So I want to tell you about this experience that I had with one of your ThinkPads at one point." I'm like, "Okay, sure, let's go right into it." No hi, but sure, nice to meet you. So, uh,
yep, it's definitely an interesting dynamic, and it's nice to see you guys evolve though. So that's the cool part with all these things that you guys are doing. So now you know because I'm a security guy, I happen to work at a security company, right? So how is Lenovo addressing the growing concerns around cybersecurity, both in its hardware design and software offerings to protect user data and privacy?
yeah, good question. So we have our ThinkShield product line, which is a collection of tools that are both Lenovo as well as our partner tools. And these are security tools that are built into the framework of the devices. But then we have an ecosystem of partners who you can transact with through Lenovo. So like software vendors that we partner with, um, you know, there's like categories at Lenovo that I'm maybe less familiar with, but to answer your question, our ThinkShield category is going to encompass everything around data security, and like what you see on the machine itself. And then we work through a lot of strategic partners to align with solutions that MSPs and other resellers in our ecosystem are looking to position to their customers and how that integrates into our products. I'm not the security guy, so I don't know if I could go deeper
No,
than
no,
that.
that's perfect. It's just good to hear that you are going down those roads and making sure that, we all hear about these chips now that can be injected with problems, and it's just crazy to think about. Every time you think you found a way to stop things, there's something new popping up.
What I do think is very interesting, and I'm sure this is one of the questions on your list is, like how we're dealing with the AI story, because every
Yeah.
vendor has to have an answer to that. Um, and I know it's the sexy word now. And what I think is very interesting about our organization is how we work with our technology partners like Intel, NVIDIA, and like the chip designers who are actually building the framework now for AI PCs, infrastructure solutions. It's not a sexy word, the hardware piece of it, but there still needs to be standards around, like, okay, well, these solutions don't run in a vacuum, right? And so what is the chipset design that goes into that? And then how does that play into like the software tools that you're actually going to be using on your PC? Um, and so that's where I think as an organization, it's such a fascinating topic because I look at like points in time where the IT industry just like fundamentally changed. And like you have these moments like the introduction of the iPhone and like what that meant and app stores. Before that, like the gaming PCs back in the early days of building custom computers and like how that stuff sort of standardized. Um, and every iteration that you see of like technology advancement comes from some sort of like standardization, right? Because you get guidance around, okay, here's how products are designed and here's how they're going to support these types of needs. And our technology partners that we work with are at the forefront of that right now for the AI generation and like what those AI standards are going to be from a hardware perspective. It's really fascinating. I wish I was more technical, but that's like the side of our business that I would, love to learn more about. But how we work with those technology partners is so fascinating.
Yeah, you definitely hit it on the head because my question was going to be, you know, and you may not know this, but beyond the hardware, what software and service initiatives is Lenovo undertaking to fully leverage AI capabilities across the product ecosystem?
Yeah. So we have some of our own in-house tools that we're building. A lot of the evolution that I'm seeing right now is actually how as an organization internally and how we interact with our partners and our customers, what are the tools that we use internally to address certain things, like our platforms that we use as an internal employee. Those platforms we're seeing a lot of integration into like AI capabilities. And I think that's kind of fascinating because it's like your own dog food, right? You use your own tools.
Right.
But where I see, and maybe this is a broader topic for the group, um, where a lot of prior moments in the AI, or not AI, in the technology landscape, moments where you had this change, and who were the customers that you were selling to first. It seems like in most prior examples, everything would trickle down from the enterprise down, right? Solutions would be designed for the enterprise, and then over time they become more SMB friendly, right? Like, but you get to that point over time. Whereas with the AI generation, it seems like the complete opposite. Like, yes, enterprises are using AI tools to help them be more productive, but I think because AI has gotten in the hands of consumers as like
Yes.
forefront of the user group, like everyday users expect these capabilities in their daily lives, and then they expect that to translate into the business world, right?
Hmm.
So I see the AI opportunity right now more so at the SMB level,
Hmm.
more so than I see it at the enterprise level, because the enterprises are always going to have in-house resources to determine, custom built tools and whatnot. But SMBs don't have that, and MSPs are really the knowledge base around, like, if you know your customer well enough, positioning the right tools that they can use, just as I would use an AI tool to help me be more productive in my environment. How is an SMB user going to get that same experience? And MSPs are the ones who need to know that information because they're talking to those customers.
Right. And it is interesting that I feel bad for the MSPs in a few ways. As a recovering MSP myself, um, I just really find it crazy that every time these new things come out, just because you're an MSP and you're technical, it means you're now the expert,
You're supposed to know,
right?
right?
So that's like on the outside view, it's hey, before these last few years, I didn't have to worry about threats from China and Russia and all these crazy threats. Now MSPs are expected to protect from that. Oh, and now, by the way, we're supposed to be the experts in AI, right? And it
Yeah.
just keeps on evolving and changing. What happens internally is, and I've been seeing this a lot, is the poor techs are having this stuff dumped on them, and some of them are technical in different ways. Not every tech is going to want to be in the cybersecurity space or understand cybersecurity and how it works. And a lot of cybersecurity is more operational understanding and management level, but they dump it on the techs, and then the techs don't know, and they don't want to tell them that they don't know. And it causes all this crazy friction and change and things that are just getting crazy. And now the more mature MSPs are figuring this out and laying down plans and paths and making sure people are in the right seats. But how much can you take as an MSP when these things come out and it's like, okay, you're technical, you're going to be the expert on this, right? And I feel like one thing that I think the MSPs could do now more than ever, especially with AI, because it's so broad and we still don't understand it fully. I think that's one mistake I see is, oh, I have ChatGPT, I understand AI.
Right.
No, that's not it. But it's more about finding experts who actually do it, understand it, and also understand that they don't know it all yet because it's still really new.
Well, the use cases haven't all been defined yet.
Right.
And what I think a lot of people find scary, it's like, so like as a hobby, I like investing. I like learning how the stock market works and technical trends and stuff like that. So I'm less of a fundamentals person. I don't care about what happens in the news and how that impacts markets, right? It's more
Right.
about technicals that I follow. And I like looking at chart patterns. And I sort of relate this to, like, someone will say, well, how do I know which AI company I should invest in? Because some of these companies are really small and their solutions might be interesting today, but how do I know that in 10 years they're still going to be around? I have a service
Right.
contract with a customer for the next 3 years. Do I even know if this company that I'm looking at is going to be alive in 3 years? And that's
Yeah.
a scary question. Um, and I don't think there's a good answer to that yet, but I think to make it a lot less scary is, for these MSPs who are supposed to be experts, is you may not know all of the capabilities, but I guarantee that if you were to look at your tech stack, like, who are your current vendors? Like, forget about
Mhm.
adding new vendors into your stack. Just look at the current vendors that you use today. And if I was a betting man, which, if I, as a hobby in markets, I probably am. But if I was a betting man, I would say that almost every single one of your technology partners who you already work with has an AI story, has some sort of AI capabilities built into their tool. And you don't need to become an expert on something you don't know. You can look at the tools that you already know pretty well, and you can see, well, how are they advancing? What are they doing? How are they saving me time? Or how are they making the tool more effective for my technicians or for the end customer to get a better experience? And start your message there. If you're going to have an AI message and you don't know where to start, look at the tools that you're already using today and find out what they are doing around AI, because it's a lot closer to home. It's easier to grasp. And you can see, okay, these enhancements help my technicians become more effective. I can communicate that as, what does that translate to the customer experience? What new capabilities in the tool can I do that I couldn't do previously? So better understand the existing tools that you have before you start looking at outside tools. And then the other advice that I would give is, people like to sell boxes. right? They
Yeah.
like something that's easy to understand. I'm selling this box, this widget, right? And AI isn't a box, and it's never going to be a box. And the MSPs who are getting this are realizing it's a tool, and you don't, if you have a hammer, if I gave you a hammer and I said the only thing that you can do with this hammer is to nail a nail into a piece of wood. So, like that isn't going to give you a lot of perspective into like what its capabilities are. But like you can build houses with hammers, right? And so that's like a broader use case of the tool, right? So people get really caught up thinking like there's got to be some sort of solution that meets a specific need, and that is a box. And that's not how AI works. It is a tool, and the better you understand how to use that tool for different use cases, you can create beautiful things with it, right? You can build that home, and that home is something that's your story, not because of the tool, but that tool helped you do it, right? And as these tools advance, you have a hammer, but then that tool advances to become a jackhammer, right? So how is a jackhammer more effective? Well, I mean, you can dig up a lot of concrete very quickly, right? You wouldn't have to manually chip it out by hand, right? So it allows you to do the same type of work, but more effectively or faster. And that's how you need to view this space right now. I think like when I talk to partners and present it that way, it's a lot more grounding. You feel a lot more like, okay, I can understand this. It's not so foreign to me anymore. Don't know if I'm going in the right direction, but that's helped me a lot with communicating with my partners.
No, I like that. I'm going to go back to what you started with, though, because it rolls back to community. Talk to your vendors, talk to your existing partners, the people you're working with, and find out what they're doing. And that communication is so important just across the board. Forget about what's going on with AI, you should be communicating with your partners, your vendors, if you're an MSP, you should be talking to your vendors. If you're a vendor, you should be talking to your MSP, and you guys should be having this communication about not just, hey, Joe, what's my discount? What's my discount this month? And the flip side of that is Joe shouldn't be calling his customers going, hey, it's end of the month. I need to make quota. Like those conversations need to go out the window, because if you're having these communications, to your point, where we're talking every day and I'm saying, hey, Joe, what's your AI look like? What are you guys doing? What's working? What have you started doing? So I have a better perspective of the things that I can go talk to my clients about. And you're having those regular conversations. The quota conversation doesn't happen. And then on the
Right.
flip side, you're not worried about just having that one conversation a month about price or about this, about whatever it is, because you're in these ongoing conversations about what's going on in each other's space and how we
Yeah.
can help each other to be better.
Especially when you have a channel rep, like your channel rep isn't going to know all the answers, right? Like partners
Right.
ask me questions all the time that I'm like, you're talking like 10,000 feet above my head here. Okay. Like what you're describing, I do not have the technical expertise to know the answer to this. But like I know how to go to other people in the organization and find information that's going to help you.
Right.
Two things that I could say on this, like what's our AI story? Well, we have basically an ecosystem of partners who are what we call AI innovators. These are other organizations who are creating verticalized AI solutions. And maybe not like that one solution, one size fits all thing, but vertical
Right.
focused, right? Okay, so I have certain customers that I work with in this vertical. Maybe I should be talking to one of these technology partners who maybe doesn't have the capacity to scale as an organization to find customers the way that I do, because like I've got all of these customers to talk about, but they have a very interesting solution that is more technical than I have the capacity to research myself. Don't reinvent the wheel. We've got this
Yeah.
ecosystem of people who are already like, this is their focus, right? And that's one thing that I've learned over time. It's like, hey, I've got these technology partners that I can get in front of reseller partners in our ecosystem, and they can collaborate together, right? So that's the partnership, that's the community. If you wouldn't ask me that question, I wouldn't know to insert those resources to you. So it's not the simple, oh, hey, where's this opportunity right now? If you're trying to create that message, start with your channel reps, ask them tough questions that you know that they don't have the answers to, but like let them go research it for you. And the other piece of this is, like what are we doing around AI? I mean, we've got AI PCs coming to market. We've got these workstations that are very capable of running basically like developer environments for AI. And we have server infrastructure as well. And so these various use cases of AI, like we might not be creating the AI tool itself, but the hardware that that tool runs on, like that's what is coming to market right now, right? So I have partners who are looking to get into the AI space and they need to run these various workloads and they're looking at, okay, I know I'm going to need hardware to do that. And it might be something that I can do in the cloud, but in other cases, data needs to be secure and private and it needs to be done at the edge, right? So all of that compute needs to be done without actually going up to the cloud. And I need something that can actually process that, right? And so like, those are questions that like resellers should be talking to me about. Like I don't have all the answers, but like, hey, you
Right.
come to me with those questions, I'm going to be able to deliver that. I'm going to get you in front of other resources that can help with that technical story that you're trying to create.
Okay, so we're talking about community, and you've been bouncing in this area for a few years now. Let me ask you this: what's the toughest question that you've ever got since and you're in this position so far?
Does it have to be like a work question or could it just be like a,
Toughest question because it's community, right? So you're dealing with people who are going to throw stuff at you all the time. What's the toughest question you've got as someone who represents the community at Lenovo?
yeah, I would say the toughest question I always get is, and there's an easy answer to this, but it's when somebody asks me like what you do better than so I work with this other OEM, this other organization that does something, like what do you do better? And I hate that question because I hate comparing to another organization. It's like, well, if you're coming to me and you're asking me that question, there might be something wrong with the relationship that you have with that other vendor, with why you're even asking the question in the first place. I don't want to talk about another vendor. It's more like, what can I offer you? I think that's the toughest question because sometimes you get people who are like, no, but I specifically want you to talk about how you compare against this other solution. And it's like, when you're talking hardware, sometimes it is like, it's a very similar interface.
Right.
And it's like, well, look, I might not have a clear answer, but when you talk about your relationship and your trust with that other vendor, are they providing that to you? Is the support there? There's other factors outside of the physical hardware itself. So I think that's probably one of the toughest questions I get on a regular basis, especially from doing events.
Yeah, one of the tactics that I found for that, just, in general, and I think everybody should learn how to do this because sometimes they already know the answer they're looking for. And if you answer it wrong, you're already done. Right.
Yeah.
So I like that you've already acknowledged that. But one thing that I used to do to try to get to the bottom of it was so that, Joe, you've asked that question. And then I go, Joe, that's a great question. I get that question all the time. Why do you ask? So I'm hoping at that point now they're saying, well, because so and so did this to me, or they didn't do this for me, right? So now you have a better way of answering the question because it's a loaded question. It's hard to compare yourself to someone when you don't know why they're asking the question.
Comparing is, unless it's like, if you're even in that situation where it's a comparison between two products, it's like, all right, there's a cost basis here. If both are
Yeah,
solutions, then it's which one is going to be cheaper. And every MSP is trying to navigate away from that. They don't want to be the cheapest solution, because if you're the cheapest solution, it means you're the schmuck who is getting the least margin for your time, right? You need to have a story that's strong enough that it's not about the money anymore. You're too valuable to look elsewhere. And easier said than done. But that's like one of the challenges as a hardware OEM is like, well, how is this ThinkPad better than this competitor name here, whatever?
right.
Well, they're actually meant to be direct comparison products. So it's not really meant to be a better thing. Like this is our version of it, right? And if you're doing it based on that, then yes, it's solely going to be based on cost. But like, what are the other factors in the relationship that I can provide you that you don't feel like you're going to get elsewhere? Um, that can be definitely tricky as working as a hardware OEM in this space, especially
Yeah,
with
I feel like you're right. It's way tougher from that perspective because the comparison is just that. It's those types of things. I always ask people, how about we don't talk about the comparisons between someone else and just you tell me what you need to do. What are your needs? What is it that, what is it your company needs? And let's check those boxes. And then if it comes down to just being price, cool, use the company you're using right now. But if you're asking the question, there's going to be something more than price. Why are you asking the question? You're just trying to come to me and, or, get $3 off on this computer, right? Is that going to save the day, or is there something more? Because the only thing that separates it is the relationship part, right, Joe? And that's the piece that you're talking about here. It's that relationship piece. You're going to have their back, take care of them if there's a problem, and you're actually going to answer the phone, which is funny to say, but some of these companies don't even answer the phone.
um, with the community that I have, it's not just me answering the phone either, right?
Right.
I have an entire team who supports me with this community that I work with personally. And yeah, I get this stuff all the time. People expect me to be readily available all the time. They'll call me, text me, message me on Teams. And with the world that we live in now, sometimes that's not feasible, right? But I have my own community that I trust, and that is in turn what I offer to partners who work with us. So like, yeah, sometimes like, hey, unfortunately, when we went back and forth, you looked at this option and you looked at our option. Ours was $3 more expensive. Who did you go with? Did it really matter at that point? Well, you went with whoever you selected because there was something more to it than
Right.
the transaction itself, right? You knew that if you got on the phone with that vendor, that they were going to be there to support you. And that's what I hope to provide to everyone in our community. And that's why I go to so many events. And that's why, we're constantly evolving the program, because it's, you need that feedback, and you need people to know who you are and to know that they can come to you with questions. Um, at least from a vendor perspective. I'm sure MSPs deal with this with their customers as well, but knowing your customer intimately, like knowing how they work, is more and more important every day.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because on the flip, I was thinking of this, how hard it is for you from the hardware perspective, but then on the MSP side, it's the pressure of they worry about price. They don't want to be in the race to the bottom, but they still worry about price. And I thought back to when hardware was just starting to be like, we don't want to build it ourselves. We need a Lenovo in our world, but people can go online and buy their own laptops and buy their own stuff. I decided at one point, and it wasn't me, it was someone smarter than me that got me in the right direction. But I decided that I'm not playing that game anymore. And what I did was I marked them up, and I wasn't shy about it because I wanted to cover when things got returned. I wanted to cover my people's time, all the things that go into getting a machine to your office, configured the way you wanted, all that. And I marked it up significantly because of that. But I also let my customers know we're not the cheapest, but you're not paying us for the computer. You're paying us for the service. If you
Right.
want to buy a computer, you can go to Best Buy and buy one, but they're going to support it. And I don't think you're going to have fun with that. Right. And so we built that in. And what it did for me was two things. One, I was actually getting paid what I deserved. My team was actually, able to do the things they needed to do, and I wasn't falling behind. And two, I kind of weeded out those customers that only care about price. And sometimes I know it's hard. It's hard as an MSP to do this, but those customers are the ones that drain your business, kill your culture, because that's all they care about, and they don't value what you do.
Yeah. And look, I've heard the same thing going to events and from the community directly. This is such a hot topic that, you
Yep.
know, people are scared to address, but the reality is there. Like, when I get into that situation where I've gone back and forth with somebody 3 or 4 times, I'm like, is this worth my time anymore? Because like, yes,
Right.
we win this deal, but if we're negative margin, at that point, like we're just trying to like appease somebody, to just trying to get the customer in and hoping that maybe in the future, we'll have a little bit more margin to work with. It's, hey, you understand that when you sell technology, there's a little bit in it for everybody, right? But the hardware is not the solution. The solution is the service that you're providing. And if people are going to nickel and dime your service, that's not worth your time. So I like when MSPs use the example of, hey, if you buy the hardware from me, if you need any servicing done, it's going to be in your contracted price, right? For the monthly rate that you're paying, I'll handle it for you. But if you buy the hardware from someone else, I'm going to bill you hourly whenever something does break. And hopefully the products don't break frequently, right? But there's that what if, right? And that's, that's actually the bigger opportunity. That's, people don't want that what if. I don't want to think about the incurred costs that I'll get that are not expected, right? Um, so like that's how I say like to handle that, right? If you have a customer who doesn't want to buy from you, that's okay. Let them buy from whoever, but say, hey, if you don't buy the right product, I'm going to bill you hourly to fix it. If you buy something and it breaks or you need a warranty claim on it, I'm going to bill you hourly for it.
Right.
My time is valuable. If you don't appreciate that, then that's what it costs.
It's all about value, Joe. It's all about that value. And that's the, when the customer doesn't value you, that's when they're going to abuse the relationship and things get a little crazy. Can't have that. So talking about community and all the things that go with it, let's get back to Lenovo for a little bit. And I'm asking this question from a standpoint. Talk a little bit about your partner program. I'm sure you guys have one. Can you just chat a little bit about what an MSP would expect from your partner program?
Yeah, and appreciate you asking. So when I started at Lenovo, I was looking at like, hey, what is our standard partner program experience? What do people see when they interact with us? How do they feel? And what are they getting out of the relationship? So before we had an MSP program, I was going to events, I was gathering feedback from MSPs directly as to like what they wanted. And so we launched an MSP partner program a few years ago, and it was initially just in North America. We were testing it out. I think I had 8 partners in the program as a pilot when it started. And we had a lot of success, and the program grew, and we got recognition from our worldwide team. So now it's actually part of a global framework, and there are other geos that are implementing the same program design across the world. So it's like one of those accomplishments that I'm really proud of. But yeah, it's part of our Lenovo 360 partner experience. We know that things are not a one size fits all, and not every partner who comes into our ecosystem is going to need and want the same things out of us. So we've created these sort of like pathways a partner can take when they come into our ecosystem so that we can better serve them based on how they operate rather than forcing them to align to how we do business. So our Lenovo 360 framework is just that. You can take the MSP pathway when you create a partner ID in our ecosystem, and that's going to get you various things, but first and foremost, you get dedicated coverage from our MSP channel team. So our team who only talks to MSPs. You get a partner program that incentivizes you and encourages your growth, and it rewards you on standardization, right? That's a big word. And,
Right.
yeah, you could sell any hardware product, but it's the same thing as like airline programs. You could fly any flight. Why do you choose to fly one? Well, you like the experience, you get good benefits, those things, right? So we have a program that's designed to do that. And then, we have training and resources and marketing material and just all sorts of resources that our partners can leverage in our Lenovo Partner Hub. So the partner program itself, it's free for an MSP to participate in. They don't have to have like a revenue threshold with us. And it offers benefits from $0. As you transact with us in our ecosystem, you get rewarded on everything you do, and those dollars that you get in the program get reinvested for MDF purposes, for business development needs, for NFR equipment, stuff like that. Like you've got a lot of flexible options with how you use the program to reinvest the dollars that you get working with us. So it may not be sexy, but it definitely provides a lot of value.
You guys have deal registration and things like that to protect the MSPs as they're, going through the process and, you don't have competing people going for the same jobs and things like that.
Yeah, like every OEM, we have deal registration, and those perks are consistent regardless of which pathway you take. Deal registration is, one of those partner benefits, more so based on the opportunity. But one of the things that really stands out in our MSP program is, MSPs have all of these different vendors that they have to work with, and they're not going to take the time to learn all of the tools for each vendor. They're not going to know when a new generation of products is coming out for Lenovo, right? And so one of the things that our team does very early on when they talk to any MSP is they're like, we know you're not selling everything under the sun. You probably have a good, better, best. Identify what those specs are with us, allow us to have that information, identify customers who transact with you frequently, right? Because things like that, rather than telling the MSP, oh, here's how you do it, we can actually take on that task, make it a lot easier for them because we know our tools better than the MSPs could. Can we show them how to use the tools? Absolutely. If you want to be self-sufficient, we can show you how to do it. But one of those real values in the program is you've got this rep who knows a lot of the core stuff about your business and is quick, can turn around things quicker than you could, knows the inventory, knows the standard configs that are going to meet your specification, knows what's available through distribution, rebates attached to that. That's a lot of stuff for an MSP to juggle, especially when they're wearing multiple hats. And it's not like a procurement lead who's contacting us. It's literally the business owner is asking us for a quote. I'm like, this is your job. Like you're doing this on top of running your business. But that's a huge perk in the program, and getting that dedicated coverage, somebody who knows how you operate, knows what you typically sell, is going to be able to turn things around quickly. I think that's half the battle right there, right, in the partnership. So that's a key thing that you get by participating in it with us.
Oh, that's great. Very adept, Joe. That was
I mean,
awesome. Let me ask you this, because this question comes up for everybody. What is Lenovo doing from a standpoint of talent acquisition, finding good people to come in and help handle this community? I think this helps everybody because we're all constantly trying to find really good talent in this space. So what is Lenovo doing to find good talent to come in and step in and help these MSPs?
yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate in that I get to work with all of the reps on the team who support our MSP community. And I get to personally train each of the reps who comes in. So I feel confident in knowing that everyone on my team who works with me to support the community of partners that we have, um, they're not going to have all the answers to all the questions that
Right.
are going to come in. But as those questions come in and there's trust built and people come to us for help, that we can actually deliver on that. So, we have a fantastic team who works, very closely with each of the partners in our MSP community. And one of the other things that, from a talent perspective, is, like the part of the organization that I work with, I'm not part of the product team. I'm not building new solutions, but I'm identifying things based on feedback that partners give us. And I
Right.
regularly engage partners in our MSP ecosystem to our product team to say, hey, you built this solution. It's a customer oriented solution. It's our partner facing solution. And you designed it to work a certain way. And here's how it does work. And here's how it doesn't work for MSPs. And here's actual real feedback from a live partner giving you, that direction for what you should do with the product design. So I think we have a lot of solutions that make sense for MSPs. And sometimes it's just like getting asked the question, and then we find the resources to say, hey, you struggle with this a lot. Did you know this tool exists? It solves that problem. It's like, I had no idea that existed. And then I learn something new every day. And then I can say, oh, hey, I helped one partner with this. The next time I get that question, I can, hey, we've got this tool. And I can be a better advocate for the community.
Dig it deeper. How are you finding these people? That's the talent part I'm asking. So how are you guys out there finding people that fit the roles and can come in and jump in?
Yeah. You have to find people who care about the relationship first. Understanding that every partner is different and how they interact with you is going to be different, and being flexible to listening to them, and not just saying, okay, what is the thing that I can support you through, but like listening to them and understanding them a little bit more closely. Um, I mean, I can't speak directly to like our hiring processes,
Yeah, yeah.
but I can definitely say that the people that I've identified who work alongside me fit that criteria. You know, they do care about their partners, and I see good comments, like good, feedback, like they forwarded messages to me all the time for an experience that a partner had working with them, and I
Right.
trust my team, and that's the value, that is the unique benefit that we offer that someone else may not. I don't know what other people offer, but I do know my team, and I do know what they deliver for our MSPs.
Nice. The reason why I asked the question is because it's so hard to find good people, right? You
Yeah.
don't know where you're going to find them. You can go out and recruit, but is there a way to find those good people? And at a previous employer, we used to go to the Apple Genius bar and hang out at the bar, talk to people, and we would hire. We hired so many people that we got banned from the store.
They found out what you were doing.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I, no, I've had heart-to-heart talks with some of our MSPs in our community about the topic of hiring, and I know
right.
how challenging it, especially for like tier one resources who are,
Yeah.
who want to do something more with their career long term, and hey, I don't want to be in tier one forever. I want to move up, right?
Right.
Um, Having that culture and creating something within your small organization that gets people to want to stick around and to grow and to actually find the talent who wants to grow in the first place. Those are
Yeah.
very, very challenging things.
When I was an MSP, I'd go to at the time Circuit City, right? They're gone now, but I would go to Circuit City and challenge the kid that was in the tech department with all kinds of questions, pretending like I had no clue what the answers were.
Yeah.
And when you got someone that was that good and they could sell to the public, like talk to the public in a good way, you knew they could fit the MSP space. So we used to go there and have conversations all the time and find really good people, diamonds in the rough, that could come over to the MSP space. But I don't know if that's shrinking or not now, but being able to find those good people, that's a good way to do it. And like you said, based off of their personality and how you can train them on all the other stuff, but how they deal with situations and do they genuinely care about who they're talking to?
Yeah, this has always been close to my heart because, trying to find different roles over time, you want people to trust you. You want them to see who you are and
Right.
what you can bring to the table. And it can be scary when your resume isn't as, detailed as they would like. But I love talking to people who ask questions, more so than like having technical expertise. If somebody asks questions when you're going through any exercise,
Right.
um, I found those to be the most successful people, in any role you put them in, because they care. They're thinking about like, how do I get to this solution, right? What are creative ways that I can get to it? And knowing context is so important to getting to the answer that's going to fit. Um, so it's an ongoing thing for every small business out there that, even if somebody doesn't come from Best Buy, right, doesn't have technical background, but if
Right.
they ask the right questions when you talk to them, it shows that there's a desire to learn, right? You can teach them the
Nice.
technicals, but you can't teach them the fundamentals.
100%. Well, Joe, we are coming up on time. I would love for you to tell the audience, how do they find you?
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn. You can search Lenovo Joe, and probably the first result that comes up. If you do want to hear more about our MSP community and learn about the benefits, you can reach out to our team, MSP support at lenovo.com. That's our team alias. It goes to all of us, so I would see it as well. Or you could just Google, Lenovo MSP Partner Program. I'm sure that's the first result, gets you our link to the page on our website that will, show you the steps to sign up. But happy to talk to anyone who may be interested in learning about it and, getting involved in our community.
Nice. Well, Joe, this has been great. I'm glad I filled in on this episode, got the chance to chat with you a little bit more. For everybody out there, this is recorded. You'll get to watch it on just about any platform. You can go to mspinitiative.com and find all the platforms there and pick and choose which one you want to listen to or watch. And again, glad to represent MSP Initiative. It's a great program, and you should check out all the things they're doing for the community. We're gonna sign out now. Joe, thanks very much. Appreciate your time. Everybody, we'll see you next time, probably somewhere on the road.
Thanks very much for having me. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.